I have the other thing ready so I can see when it goes live.
I'm going to mute myself really quick. I think we're ready to go. We're live!
We're live! Oh my gosh, sound the alarm. Oh, hello April, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing swell, and I can't believe that this is our 21st webinar together.
This is
And
amazing.
this is amazing. So we typically get a few people that join live. So we will be keeping an eye out for you. We'll be sure to give you some shout outs. But this month, I'm super excited to dive into this because this is my jam. And we're talking about curiosity and how you can use your ability to be curious to level up so many different level up, sorry, so many different areas of your life. And we're going to dive into it. We're going to unpack what does it mean to be curious. And April, are you ready? Should we just dive into it?
I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm super excited. I'm
Yes.
curious about
I know.
the yummy goodness that Gary is going to share today.
Yes. So first, I have a question. Whether you're watching this live or watching the replay, I'm curious on what do you want most in life? And since April's here with me live, April, what do you want most in life?
It's interesting because I feel like I have been thinking about this a lot. The pandemic is ending ish, or we're starting to transition into a new world. And I feel like we've been living this surreal, I don't know, situation for the last year. And I always felt like I knew what I want out of life, and that is, to be happy and have fulfilling relationships and all of that. But then I also feel like there's a lot of unknowns that are coming up in terms of how we will attempt to go back to normal, and I'm trying to dig a little bit deeper into what that really looks like, what fostering healthy, happy relationships looks like, and with who, and just how do I honor my values in this back to normal world. So
Yes.
yeah,
And
questions.
the reason why I'm so giddy is that I didn't even prep April for this. I just popped this question on her, and she answered exactly how I hoped she would. And so, yay. Reason why, I'm curious, and I'm curious what you would put as well, is that there was a study done by a research facility of over 10,000 people, and the majority of them said that they wanted happiness, and they placed that higher than success, intelligence, knowledge, maturity, wisdom. And the interesting thing with that is because they want to be happy, people are spending thousands of dollars to be happy, in courses and books and stuff like that. And, happiness is important. However, that shouldn't be the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Because the problem is when we focus too much time and attention to being happy,
Yeah.
we lose out what it means to be human. It's almost like I only want to be happy. I only want to be happy. I only want to be happy. And one, it's not possible to be happy 24/7.
Yeah.
That is delirious. And when we're focusing just on the happiness, we ignore the other important things in life,
Yeah.
like meaning, wisdom,
Yeah.
passion, relationships. And in the research, it shows that when we focus so much attention on being happy, we're left feeling empty, and it becomes like a drug. Like, oh, I want to be happy. All right, cool. What's going to make me happy? Boom, I do that thing, and happy is fleeting. Because, like,
Yeah.
for example, say you want to be happy, and you're like, what's going to be happy? This trip. I'm going to go on a trip. And the funny thing about that is research shows that when people put a trip on their calendar, they have something to look forward to they're sometimes happier leading up to the trip because of the
Mm.
expectations
Yeah.
than actually being on the trip. So if you imagine a graph and the horizontal is time, the vertical is your happiness, you
Mhm.
put it on the calendar, boom. Happiness is like maybe like in the middle, but as you're getting closer, your happiness is peaking. You're like, oh my God, trip is coming, trip is coming, trip is
Yeah.
coming.
This
And
is
then you
like me
get up
coming
to,
to visit you next month.
I
I'm
know,
like, my
right?
trip is coming.
Yeah, you're getting excited, and then like leading up to it, like the day before is just like Christmas Eve. You're like super excited, and your
Yeah.
happiness like sort of gets up there, and
Yeah.
it peaks and it climaxes, and
Yeah.
then you go on the trip. And it's not that you're not happy;
Yeah.
you're definitely happy, but it starts to decrease. You know, you buy a car, you get this car, and you're super excited about the car. You're happy, but over time you're happy, you're not like the same level of happiness. And so if we're only focused on happiness, it becomes like a drug because we're like, what's the next thing that's going to make me happy?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that is a bad thing, but I'm saying that there is a different way of thinking about it. So instead of trying to be happy, we should be, as April mentioned, which I love, we should be focusing on how to create a rich, meaningful life that is guided by our core values and interests.
Yay.
And I'm going to just take a pause on that. And April, I'd love to get your sort of reflection on that. How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think, there's always happiness, and all of that is always just such a subjective thing, right? So, you know, sometimes I know that that's what we're chasing, but what can make us happy can change from time to time, which is why, it's like you might have like too much of one thing, and then you're like, okay, now it's too much where you almost don't appreciate it, right?
Mhm.
So I think, really being in this reflective process constantly about like what makes me happy, and not even, like what will make me happy long term, but what will make me happy right now, is, the types of questions that you need to be asking yourself when you're trying to figure out the how, right? Because if you don't put anything into action, I mean, you could realistically just be happy, but there's got to be something that's tied to that, that you can kind of chase and be excited about, and once you kind of conquer that thing, whether it's a goal or a vacation that you're about to go on, or adding somebody new to the family, like I've got a puppy coming soon, like those types of things can make me happy. And then I know that like that's then going to be met with like pooping on the floor that I'm going to have to clean up, which I haven't had to do for the last 6 months. And so, not that that won't make you happy, but like there's just a lot to unpack when it comes to that, is my thought.
Agreed. And so the thing that we should be seeking is fulfillment.
Mhm.
And fulfillment is this big word, and I'll talk about that in just a moment.
Yeah.
But happiness is in there. Happy, like you will get moments of happiness. And another thing, so I was like in preparation for this, like I was looking and doing a lot of research and reading and planning. And one of the things that where I think people get so much focus on this happiness and they don't understand what it means is the Dalai Lama often says the very purpose in life is to seek happiness.
Mm.
But if you think about like the Dalai Lama, is one of the most like sort of pure people out there, and the Dalai Lama experiences the full range of emotion. So like when they hear that, they just do this thing about seek happiness, and then they get confused because they think, oh, it needs to be all about happiness, uh, and it's not. Like I don't feel like it's all about feeling good all the time, every day, always. I
Mhm.
think what the Dalai Lama is talking about is living a life infused with meaning while embracing the whole range of human experiences.
Mhm.
That's the positive and the negative. And
Yep.
so, like, if happiness is not the end game, like, what is the answer to getting a fulfilling life, or fulfilled? That's the word.
Fulfilling.
Fulfilled life. And so, the answer is, drum roll, please. Curiosity. Hello.
Heck yeah.
And this is like I like to call it the cheat code to a happy and fulfilled life.
Okay.
Because if you are curious, and we're going to go into what curiosity is,
Yeah.
and how it can help you in all areas of your life, it will it will help you get happiness, but it'll also help you just be present and go through all of those range of emotions
Mhm.
and just keep going. Real quick, before I talk about what curiosity is,
Mhm.
April, I'd love to, just on hearing that, like, love to get some reflection from you.
Um, yeah, I mean, you said it great. I'm like, I don't know if I have anything to add. I just think that it's, yeah, the fulfillment of it all is just so important. And yeah, we gotta go after that as much
Yes,
as possible.
yes.
So yeah.
And by the way, big props to Terry. What's up?
Hey
What's up, Terry?
Terry.
Terry,
Yeah, we
Terry
don't
is
have
here
it
in the
yet,
audience.
but it'll be soon.
Yes, he says congrats on the puppy. And so, what is curiosity? Essentially, curiosity is the state of being curious. It's all about being inquisitive, wondering, ready to poke around and figure something out.
Yeah.
Fun fact, uh, the word used to mean very, very careful. And it's only been in the last 100 or so years that the word meant expressing a desire to know more. And so I can only
Interesting.
so being curious about why it meant very, very careful. I feel like
Yeah.
it was because you get this desire to learn more, and people may be like sort of snooping in people's stuff, and so I got to be very, very careful because I don't want April to find out that I'm reading her diary or something. I don't know, but like this is just, again, me getting curious about what that means. But it just essentially means having a desire to know more.
Yeah.
And on the surface, curiosity is a novelty, like and that's what most people think, like, oh, I'm curious about this new movie, or I saw this book at Barnes and Noble and it piqued my curiosity, so I want to learn more. And so
Mhm.
there's a lot of times when people think about it, they think about it sort of after the fact, but they don't realize that it actually has some amazing powers if you harness it the right way. And that's why I like to say curiosity is usually an underrated emotion, because we you're not pro a lot of times people aren't proactive about curiosity. Something happened, an event, which made you curious, and then you went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And so love to like sort of think about like what were some of the last things that people were curious about. If you want to put that in the chat, please, let me know what are some things that have brought you curious. And April, same with you. What have you been curious about?
It's interesting because I have been admittedly doing a lot of um, binge watching lately,
Mhm.
for various reasons. I think it's like just kind of waiting for here in Chicago the summer to hit. Um, and I've always mentioned this as just a fascination that I have, but like I'm super curious about the way that media portrays life in our world. And so I do watch a good share of reality TV, and I think that I've been telling you this, Gary, that I've just kind of gone down this rabbit hole of like watching The Bachelor, which I hadn't watched since like 2003, but like there's a interesting dynamic that I'm just watching from all these angles of like, why do these people want to be on a show like this and expose their lives, and then they make mistakes and then they are ashamed, and there's but then also just the curiosity around like what is the network doing to like make this such a thing that people are curious about, right? And so um I've just always been fascinated with this idea of how this kind of shapes how we see the world, because it's television and sometimes it's not real. But I sit there and I'm so super curious about like, why are people drawn to this? Why am I drawn to this? And what is it that makes this show work for years on end, and all of that. So I know that that's like a tiny little example, but like it definitely fuels some of the things that I think about and how I want to influence the world and all of that. But that's kind of why I watch it, even though, I know that there's some fabrication to it and but it is so interesting to just watch why, like why are people so drawn to these types of shows. And it is feeling like connected to somebody that they can't see, and all of these things. So yeah, that's a big thing that I've just been curious about. But I'm getting to that point where I'm like, I just want to like watch everything so that I don't have anything else to watch and I can focus on the rest of life. So yeah.
Yes. And so thank you for being our guinea pig. And
Yeah.
what I love about what April says, and it really highlights the power of curiosity. One, it allows you to get hyper focused. When you're curious about something, you go deep because you're just like, oh, what is this? You start to elicit all of the amazing positive neurochemicals that go through your body. Dopamine. Dopamine is that feeling where you do something, it's like, oh, I want to do more of that. Like it's like sort of like that following that breadcrumb.
Yeah.
Also, it allows you to be extremely present. When you're curious about something, you are only focusing on that instead of like focusing elsewhere. Like you get super hyper focused and present. And it again, we a lot of times we reflect back. We're like, oh, that made us curious, and we're not intentional. And so I like to say we have different knobs that we can adjust,
Yeah.
and the curiosity knob is a knob that is probably isn't touched that often. We turn up the other knob, the worry knob, a lot. Because if you think about what's in our control when things happen,
Yeah.
the worry knob is probably a knob that gets turned up to 11. And because that's within our control. Like, for example, personal story about me. Lately, I've been having like some stomach issues and stuff like that, and I naturally, like the default thing is to get worried, like, oh, what does this mean? What's this mean? Oh my gosh, is something going to happen? Yada, yada, yada. It happens like, oh, default, like worry. And again, if you think about our brain's number one job is to keep you alive, worry can, it seems useful, but, someone said that worry, a few things. Worry is like sitting in a rocking chair. Like you may feel like you're busy doing something, but you're going nowhere. Or worry
Yeah.
is a misuse of imagination because I'm ruminating on all these things that could go wrong, and it gives my brain something to do.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, that's we're like, all right, we have to figure this out. But it's something that's within my control. And there's a lot of things outside of my control of waiting for doctor results and blood tests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the other knob that is usually left down is the curiosity knob.
Mm.
And if you start to turn the curiosity knob up, the worry knob goes down. And I'll talk about that when we get into the aspects of dealing with anxiety and stuff like that. But one of the cool things about when you're curious, the benefit of curiosity, it enables us to lean into uncertainty with a positive attitude. Because worry is the same thing. It's uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen, but it's more of a negative approach to it.
Yeah.
So when you are curious and you can turn up that curiosity knob, you are leaning into uncertainty with a positive attitude, and it relax and opens our mind to new ideas, skills, and way of solving problems. So it is something that, like I said, is underrated, that we have the ability to control. Um, just like worry. Worry is something, even though like sometimes it feels like it's on autopilot, and before long we're spiraling and we're trying to pull back on the reins, and it's so challenging. Most of the time, uh, it's the like when you tell someone don't worry, like that is that worst advice that you could give someone
Right.
because say don't worry, like no, it like that doesn't counteract it.
Yeah.
Like for example, um like I like spicy foods, and I know like I like to sort of dabble, and sometimes I go a little bit too far with the spicy thing, and I'm already there, so I can't say take the spice out. What you got to do to counteract the spice, you have to add, I think it's a vinegar to make it less spicy.
Oh,
Um,
I never
and
knew that.
so Yeah. So like if you go too far on the spice, like it's just like worry. Like, I can't unworry this. The worry's there. You need to
Yeah.
add something else. That's the curiosity.
Mm,
And when you start to turn up your curiosity, your worry starts to go down because you are activating a different part of your brain.
mm.
And so instead of telling someone not to worry, a better approach is inviting them to be curious. And so, before I go into some of the benefits of curiosity, I'd like to just take two things. One, Terry said that he's been curious about new sketching techniques. And so, and also challenging his old schedule to see if it really fits. So, yeah, challenging things, being curious about this. Again, the benefits, being open to new way of thinking things. Before I get into the benefits of curiosity, wanted to take a pause and get some reflection from you, April, on what are your thoughts on that sort of worry, curiosity, and using it as a way to sort of have control over something.
If you might have been watching, like my eyes were just kind of like thinking about things as you were talking, because I was definitely applying that to my life. I know that I live in a family that has a very good default tendency of worrying about things. And it's definitely something that I've always had to fight. But just thinking about, you know, looking at the opportunity of reframing, right? Like a lot of what we talk about is, not looking at the things that are happening to us and kind of sort of dealing with them, or playing victim to the things that happen to us, but how do you get yourself out of that, right? Instead of saying, don't worry, or like it's not a big deal, don't worry about it, it's cool, it's everything's okay, which makes you even more anxious and want to be even more like worrisome, to think about it by asking the question, well, how might this look in a different way? If we were to, investigate an alternative universe where, we're not worrying about it, what could we get curious about instead? And I was trying to think about how to apply that to my life. And I'm like, you know, how would I tweak that question? And so that's what was going on in my mind. Cause I'm like, that is such a great, you just don't tie the two together, but it is a positive reframe of worry, because you are negatively being curious about like what could possibly happen. You're asking the what if, you're bringing out all this anxiety. But if you think about it from curiosity instead, it kind of takes away that level of anxiety, which is really, really
Mhm.
interesting. So I like
And what
that.
it does,
Keep on thinking about it.
yes. And so on us, we're on the brain science. What happens is when you worry, you're in your amygdala, you're in your lizard brain. That's fight, flight, or freeze,
Yeah.
and you don't have the capacity to do any of that stuff. You're just like trying to survive. You're in survival mode.
Yeah.
That's why telling someone not to worry, like, it does not work because you're in that part of the brain. You need to hack their brain to get them out of that and into the prefrontal cortex. And the easiest thing to do that is to ask a question. Because when you ask a question, you can't help but to answer the question, even if you don't answer it out loud.
Yeah.
Like if I were to say, what's the weather like today? You right now are thinking about the weather, whether you like to think of it or not. And so the cool thing, and I do this to my 4-year-old a lot, even though he hates it and he's getting smart and he wants to resist it. Because some people, again, this is not about like sort of controlling people. Use this as a way to control yourself. And then when you get really good at this, maybe you can assist other people. But some people may not want to shift. You have to be open with that.
Yeah.
And so my son, like when he gets in his moments and he's like maybe having a meltdown or something like that, I will ask him questions. Like, and it doesn't even have to, like, it doesn't even matter what kind of questions. If you can get
Yeah.
someone to answer a question, they start to get into their prefrontal cortex where they can start to not be so reactionary.
Yeah.
So I'll ask them, I was like, when was the last time you went pee pee? Or something, like random ask
Hmm.
questions. Like,
Yeah.
and then like he can't help but to think about it, but he knows what I'm doing, like trying to help him calm down. And then he's like, but he started to think about it. He started to think about it. And so,
Yeah.
but we're saying all this just to say, hey, help yourself first. Get really good at this first and be the example. And then people may follow along. But just know that some people, like you, may have all of this knowledge and you may try to use it to assist other people and they may still resist. That's on them.
Yeah.
But
So the little
Yeah,
trickery to start.
yeah. It's some Jedi stuff that is really interesting because again, once people start thinking and answering questions, they get into the prefrontal cortex and they immediately start to calm down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Is you know because you're just changing parts of your brain. So
Yeah.
that's where curiosity lives. And so as far as the benefits of curiosity, so when you can tap into your ability to be curious, like I said, it's a dial by
Yep.
default, most people's curiosity dials at like 2 or 3. Let's just be honest. It's just like, and then maybe something might happen circumstantially and it peaks it up. But imagine if you had more control over this curiosity knob, you can really reap the benefits. And the benefits of curiosity, one, it helps us survive. The urge to explore and seek out novelty helps us remain vigilant, helps us gain knowledge about our constantly changing environment. That is like one of the default things. It's like go back to primitive caveman times. They started being curious about, oh, what is this? What is this? Oh, this does this. Again, now we're learning. Now we're evolving.
Yeah.
And I like to invite you to think about your own environment and how, like, when you're curious about something, how it helps you sort of evolve. Like, for example, Terry was talking about new sketching techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, he's getting into that. Now it's helping him, again, see things from a different perspective. It helps him, start to see how he can sort of add that. And so, boom, now he's evolving. And we have, I think it's pronounced
Geography.
geography. Thank you. Said that they're curious when they travel, but tend to worry or stress out with other stuff. Would like to approach other things with this curiosity to de-stress, lessen the anxiety, so can enjoy the process more. So
I love
pay
that.
attention. We got you. So that's the cool thing when you can dial up your curiosity knob. It just takes some practice. It's something we all have. And it's all about being intentional. One, it's going to help you survive. The interesting thing, people that are naturally more curious tend to be happier. Research shows that
Which is
curiosity,
why
as I
Gary's
mentioned,
so happy all the time.
uh, a good portion of the time. And yes, and this is the thing is that we're not saying that you are cutting out the other emotions. Matter of fact, they are going to be there. They're going to show up. But when
Yeah.
you dial up the curiosity knob, it allows you to access those positive emotions. That's why curious people tend to be happier. Um, and also, curiosity boosts your achievement. So, this is for you, Terry. So, there's a lot of studies that show that curiosity leads to more enjoyment and participation in school and higher academic achievement. So, I want to actually champion Apryl for a moment because she is what her and her son is doing. She's making him a super genius. Her son is not in like algebra, but they're doing algebra problems. She is getting him curious about algebra, and this is where the sort of play stuff comes in. But like when you're curious about something, you hyper focus on it. You think of all these different things, and it helps you become smarter because you are experimenting. You're playing. You see it as play,
Yeah.
and as a result, you get, you're going to learn more. You're going to see all these benefits. And that's something that April is doing with her son. She's giving him these really cool algebra problems and he's digging this stuff up. I remember, like, it was something that I dreaded doing again because I didn't see it as play. I didn't get curious in it. And look at Mom of the Year April over here, making it fun and playful. And now
He
her
might not be
son's
saying
eating
that
this up,
it's super fun right now because I'm making him do it, but
right?
he likes it when he is able to, some of these problems that, we've been doing a whole bunch of problems in this workbook, and we've gotten to a point where there's things in this workbook that he hasn't learned yet. And so I'll try to take the approach of like, some of them are word problems and they're actually applicable. And so, we hide the multiple choice answers so he doesn't try to like deduce the answer based on this, but just to really think about like how would this show up. And I'm trying to tie him a little bit more into like how would you write that as an algebra problem. And that's the part he struggles with, because he's trying to like think about like, well, he's trying to make the connections in his head, but just, as Gary is saying, he is getting curious. And when he does get the right answer without any sort of teaching, he feels like very accomplished. Right. And so, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
It is very interesting to watch.
Right. And then and April's son also, did you say your son like created this song, right? Like he was
Oh
curious
yeah,
about this programming type thing.
so yeah, he's been taking a music class this quarter, and they introduced them to this program, or like this website where you can make your own sheet music. And he'll take sheet music that, songs that he knows, and he'll kind of like transpose it from a piano to like violin, like something he can potentially play on his violin. But then just even yesterday, when he's been kind of going off track, but like I don't want to stop it, because he's sitting at the piano and he's like plunking out keys and thinking about all these things. And just yesterday he's like, I think I want to learn how to play the piano. And I'm like, okay, like that's really cool. Like he's really getting into music and really getting curious about it and how he can manipulate things based on how they sound to him. And so it's great to watch that. And even just this past week, I was watching some old home videos from when I was my son's age. We were able to just like get our VHS tapes and digitize them, and just even watching curiosity, and like knowing that some of these home movies that we made were about, what would it be like if we were to make our own show. Like In Living Color was the show that was big when we were little. And my friends and I would try to do different skits that were similar to that, and then we would like sing a song and like perform it and all that stuff. And so it is interesting how curiosity can manifest into like taking action on some of these really cool things. So
Yes. So yes. So my invite to all of you is think about like what are the things that is piquing your curiosity, and how can you, especially for the things that you need to do that maybe you're not doing it, how can you turn up that curiosity knob? And inherently it makes you more playful. So there we go. We're getting a benefit. It's like I call it the Mary Poppins effect. For every job that must be done, you add an element of fun, and snap, the job's a game. That bit of fun is curiosity.
yeah.
So going on to the next sort of benefits of curiosity is that it helps you expand your empathy for people. When we're curious about others, and when we talk to people outside of our social circle, we're able to understand those and their life experiences and worldviews, and understand it, especially when they're different from our own. Now, I'm not saying that you completely agree with them.
Mhm.
That's not what it's about. It's all about just having an understanding of where people are coming from. And this, I understand in the sort of landscape that we're in now, that may be sort of challenging to understand, just like how you might be thinking, no, sorry, Garrett, I'm not going to agree with that one. I'm not going to, these people, I'm drawing the line. Again, I'm not saying that you have to, but I'm saying, imagine if you were to hear where people are coming from and you got curious about it. You don't have to agree, but you can see like, oh, all right, I understand. Sorry, hurt people, like whatever the case may be. And by you being more empathetic, again, you are getting the benefits of that, so that you can be the best version of yourself. And geography said, I like that Mary Poppins effect. If I'm hearing you correctly, I have permission to have a spoonful of sugar in the form of dessert or my choosing in the name of curiosity. Sure. Yeah. You have my permission. If it's going to help you do things better, yeah, why not? Yes, please. Because I talk about this a lot. It's DOSE, DOSE is an acronym which stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Those are the neurochemicals in our body that helps us be creative, that helps us be focused, that helps us connect, feel like we belong, and trust other people. and be the best version of ourselves. Compared to serotonin, not serotonin, excuse me, cortisol and adrenaline. That is what you get when you're hyper stressed. And that comes with short-term memory loss, that comes with rash decision making, that comes from high blood pressure. Like, we don't want that. So if you're going to do something that is going to help you be more effective and more efficient, yes, have that dessert. Be intentional about it. That is, that's my only thing. Use it for good, because everything is great in moderation. So, but here's an activity for all of you: is next time that you're out and about and you happen to see someone, here's two ways of doing it. One, easy one, is turn up your curiosity knob and think about, like, I wonder what their life is like. And again, it's not trying to be perfect, but you're just trying to be curious. I wonder what keeps them up at night. I wonder what things that they, love doing. And again, you start, like, getting the warm and fuzzies, because again, you are just turning on your ability to be empathetic, to be compassionate. And it's all through curiosity. Now, level two, if you're open to this, if you happen to, like, meet a stranger and you're in line somewhere, and imagine if you're just curious and ask them maybe some questions just so you can get to know them better. This is do this in a safe way, of course, but show them that you're interested. See how that feels just by doing that. So those are two challenges, and want to take a pause and get some reflection from Apryl on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have anything additional to add, but I think, when I don't know if it's because I'm somebody who is already very empathetic, but like whenever I do see, like a child crying, or, somebody who's walking down the street and they look distraught, like I'm always super curious about, are they okay? What might they be going through? And is there anything I can do to help? But like, my feelings like automatically go. So I wonder if there's, if people who are naturally empathetic tend to be more curious, or if there's like a correlation there. I would be curious for, anybody who's watching, if, they feel the same way, because I feel like I don't necessarily think about being curious first. I'm more empathetic first, but I also know that it's because I'm curious about how that person is feeling, and I'm trying to put myself in that person's shoes. So I wonder if people who are empathetic just naturally have a little bit more curiosity than others.
Well, yeah, in order to be empathetic, you have to be curious, because you have to sort of wonder what they're going through and being able to put yourself in their shoes to see it
Yeah.
through their worldview. So I feel like, yeah, they do go hand in hand. And here we're talking about being intentional, because you're right. Like, a lot of times this is intentional and you sort of reflect back, you're like, oh yeah. But it's more about, like, realizing we have these knobs. And so this is situation. So I'm going to throw this out, and some people are going to hate me, because again, we want to be mad, we want to have these arguments and stuff like that. I like to say, and I got this from, if you're familiar with the company Zingerman's, they're based out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, amazing bakery. And Paul Segnal, I believe, he's one of the owners of that. He's quoted by saying, "When furious, get curious." So typically, when we get mad at someone or a situation, we're enraged, and we're in the amygdala. A lot of times we apply what is called a FAE, which is the fundamental attribution error, which essentially, fundamental attribution error is, we think that when someone does something, it's a knock on their personality or character, and when we do something, it is circumstantial. So for example, if you happen to cut someone off, it was probably an accident, like you didn't see them there or whatever, circumstantial. But someone cut you off, you're quick to, you jackass, like that person's a jerk. Again, you are applying that. That's why it's called the fundamental attribution error. You're attributing with the situation to their character. So they are a jerk because only jerks would cut me off, instead of, again, being curious about what else could it be? Again, going back to when we talk about curiosity, when you harness and turn up that curiosity knob, you are able to think of other situations. And so when
Yeah.
furious, get curious, especially in relationships that you want to harness and keep. And think about, like, just like what April said in the beginning, like, this is curious is all about reframing. It's all about thinking of other possibilities. So like, what else could be there? What could be going through their mind that could have done this? Like, again, you don't have to find the answer, but just the act of thinking about it, one, calms you down a little bit, makes you a little bit more empathetic, and allows you to be more rational. So what are your thoughts on that, when fears get curious?
I mean, I just like the fact that it is, again, a positive reframe over, something that is negative. And that curiosity just seems to be the solution to like all angry people in the world, or angry or sad or worrisome. Um, yeah, it is. It's a really interesting way to think about things. So I'm
Yeah.
taking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. So, quick transition. So now that we know that curiosity is that link, curiosity is underrated emotion that we need to be more intentional about. Now, want to get very practical with curiosity, because I said we have these knobs, and a lot of times we turn up the worry knob, we turn up the anxious knob, and like I said, worry is just misuse of your create or misuse of your imagination, because they did scans of people worrying and scans of people being creative. It's the same area of the brain. You're imagining,
Mhm.
except you're using it to a negative, with a negative sort of spin, negative lens. And so, if you're ever anxious about something, I'm going to teach you a technique that will help. It takes some practice. So I like to tell people, do this in a like non-stressful situation so you can get used to it, so that when you're extremely anxious, you can use it to its benefits. And so when people are going through anxiety, like I said, it's sort of like being in quicksand. The more that you think about it, the more stuck that you get and the deeper you go, and then it becomes this spiral, right? And so they say, April, do you know what they say when you're stuck in the quicksand, what you need to do?
You don't move, right? You don't like sit there and
Right,
like
yes.
frantically like try to move because you're gonna sink
Yeah,
deeper,
right,
right?
you're going to sink deeper. You need to sort of like float.
Yeah.
However, that is challenging, right? Like, it's just like telling someone, don't worry, like, cheer up. Like, you like, I can't, don't you get it? It's like one of these things.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you need, and if you want to get out of it, you have to sort of let go, and you have to sort of just like, all right,
Surrender. Yeah.
surrender, and just float. But easier said than done. Again, when the worry knob is cranked up to 11, it is taking control over your whole sort of nervous system and everything. And so a really great exercise is, one, turning up your curiosity knob. And so it's this really cool activity. Like, it's called the ball exercise. And so if anyone's ever been in a pool with a beach ball, if you try to hold it down under the water, has anyone done that? Have you done that? Try to
Mhm.
hold a ball under the water?
Yeah.
What happens?
It just like wants to still float to the top or
Right?
find its
And
way. Yeah.
right, the harder you, and it keeps wanting to pop up. And that's like with anxiety. You're like, I don't want to be anxious, but I can't help it. I let me suppress this anxiety. And this, that. Like, it just doesn't work. And
Yeah.
so what you got to do is imagine that you have this beach ball that's on the surface of water. And so instead of trying to hold it down,
Mhm.
imagine that you just got curious, and you just started staring at it and started like looking at every single detail of this ball. Pretty soon, you get bored of it. Like, it is not a thing, and it's easier to deal with. And again, that's one of the benefits of turning up your curiosity knob, of like whatever it is that you're sort of anxious about. Imagine, instead of trying to get rid of it, instead of trying to hide it, instead of trying to act like it isn't there and shove it in your back pocket and get on. Imagine if you just took a moment, and just get curious and examine every single part of it. And then pretty soon it takes out the power. Like there's something magical about that,
Mm-hmm.
that allows you to like sort of diffuse the situation.
Yeah.
Again, this is all about reframing and stuff like that. And so what I tell people to do is a visualization exercise where you just imagine that you're, in a pool looking at a beach ball, and you're looking at every single crevice of it, like, every single detail, and imagine like how that makes you feel over time. And you get practice doing that. The ball is a metaphor for your anxiety or the thing that's worrying you. And then, then when something happens, like imagine like you go through that, and instead of thinking of the bad things, think of all the potentially good things. What could this mean? What's the opportunity here? Like you start to just sort of be curious about it.
Yeah.
It starts to take the pressure out of it, and then you're able to sort of surrender, because surrender and letting go is the more important thing here. Because the problem with anxiety is just worrying about something that's outside of your control, and um it's outside of your control, but you want to control it. Is the equivalent of trying to hold that beach ball under the water. It's not going to work.
Yes.
So Terry says, I always find it always finds a way to float. Yeah, he's talking about the beach ball. Like again, that's just the same with our anxiety. That's the same with our worry. The more that we like sort of push it down, like it's gonna pop up. And so that's where we need to control and dial up the curiosity. And by doing that, and like again, this is very meditative, is very focused, is very zen, but just realizing that a thought is a thought.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. Like it's sort of like a rainbow, right? Like rainbows, like they just show up. You don't even know where they come from, and then they just disappear. Like imagine if your thoughts were like that, and we just like look at it like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, look at that. Here's another thought. I'm thinking about this, but like you're not trying to own it. You're just like, oh, it's a thought. All right, ooh, let me think about this thought. Let me get curious instead of getting like anxious. Let me dial up the curiosity knob, and it allows it to run its course, and you'll find that it will just sort of flutter away. Again, that takes a lot of practice. Like day one is probably not going to happen, but imagine if in your curiosity you can start to, you know, think about other things, and then maybe instead of like ruminating on something for like days, maybe you can get it down to a few days, and maybe you can get that from a few days to a day, and then with practice, years of practice, probably you can get it down to like, you know, a few moments. And it's not saying that you don't feel it, because again, if you feel it and try to shove it away, it's going to be like that ball. It's going to grow and it's going to get harder. But if you just get curious, it can run its course, because that's usually what happens. If you think about anything that you were anxious about in the past, you're fine now, right? Like the quote, "We survived 100% of our bad days." So it's going to work out, and it may not work out exactly as you want, but by trying to control the situation, it doesn't make things any better. So I want to take a pause on that and get some reflection from you, Apryl, on what do you think about that?
Yeah. There's a part of me that's like, in that moment when you are, in your height of worry, just trying to figure out get how to make that shift. I know, because I feel like when I am at my worst there, or I'm worrying about something, or, there's something that I can't control, I'm like swimming in it, and I can't even think about how to be like, okay, well, now I need to get curious. And I mean, from this conversation, I know that I've got that, now I have this experience that I can tap into that. But I think for people who are just kind of in the thick of it, they're not, trying to even look for a solution. So how do you get there? And I always try to think about these things, because when people are, hitting low points, like, you almost feel like there's this weight on you that you can't let go of, and you kind of just have to like feel through it. And is it just something where, you just have to kind of train yourself to think about, okay, I know what I like can do to kind of help shift me is start to get curious about the situation, but is it important to just feel the feels first? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and it's something, could you do yourself a disservice if you are like knowing that logistically, okay, I need to get curious because I'm upset. Can that be a detriment? I don't know. I mean, so it is just interesting to think about for me. I'm just trying to think about it from like
Yeah.
all the different angles. So I don't know if you have anything
Yes.
to
No,
comment.
that's a great point about so we've heard the phrase curiosity killed the cat, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not the full poem, right? Did you know that?
I don't even know it. I know the saying.
Yeah. So curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back.
Hmm. Interesting.
So yes, there is a danger of being too curious, but this is all about again using it intentionally
Yeah.
for a very specific purpose.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, things in excess can be a problem, but
Right.
if you're doing it with intention and you are mindful about it, you can sort of use it for its full extent. And so that's again going back to the whole things about like sort of the feels and emotions and stuff like that.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with, and this goes back to what we said at the very very top of, a fulfilled life is all about experiencing all of life's emotions, the complexity of life,
Exactly.
um you know the whole smorgasbord. um and this is the thing, is that we know when things are serving us or not serving us. And so yes, sometimes we need to feel those, grief, and we need to feel dissatisfaction. That there's lessons in that, and this is where the curiosity helps us not dwell on it too much, because I like to say it's okay to be a mess,
Yeah.
you just can't stay there. And the easiest way to pull us out of that mess is curiosity, and it takes practice to get there. Like I said, if you expect, like, listening to what we're talking about and then not doing anything with it, and then expect the next time that you're stressed out or something like that to all of a sudden say, "Oh, here in April said blah blah blah, turn it on, curiosity knob to 10," and being like a master at it. No, 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 no. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen. It's all about practice. It's all about intention. This is like, and in learning this, I realized like, oh, that's why I've been sort of doing this meditation thing for as long as I've been doing it. Like, the meditation is not about being perfect about meditation. It's just all about getting easier at recognizing things that would normally hijack your brain and your body and stuff like that. And then you
Yeah.
don't realize it until you're deep in it. You're like, ah. So yes, it takes practice, and if you can play with curiosity, and that's what we're going to talk about in a moment of how you can sort of get better at curiosity, it will help you, especially when times are rough. Because, like, for example, like when I was having like these like sort of health issues last week, I was like, I had to remind myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to be curious. But by default, like, you can't help but to worry. Like, it happens. So like, yeah, it is what it is. However, what's in your control is what you like. There's the reaction. An event happened, you have a reaction. That's going to happen. Someone's going to cut you off, you immediately going to have that. That's a reaction. That's your body's reaction to a thing. Like, you get, someone says something, you have a reaction. Then there's the response. And we need to separate the two. We need to realize, like, all right, I'm going to have a reaction, and you shouldn't feel bad about having the initial reaction.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. That's a reflex. That's like the equivalent of if someone comes up to you and punches you. You're like, you may do a whole
Like,
bunch of things. That's
oh,
like your
don't
body
do
sort of reflex
that.
of like what happens. What happens after that is your response. That's what you are consciously doing. And
Yeah.
people that are curious and work on their curiosity for intentional reasons know to say, oh, that person, what they said pissed me off. When furious, get curious. All right, what else could this mean? All right, what else is there? How can I have a deeper understanding of what's really going on?
Yeah.
You might find out that they're still a jackass, and in that case, like, all right, you're a jackass. But does it mean
Exploring
like,
something else is always, another way to say, yeah, I think it goes back to, our
yes,
conversation about compassion, right? Is really thinking about, you know, this person could be going through stuff, or they could be legitimately a piece of crap. So, but it also takes you out of that anger for just a split second. So I do like
So
that.
yes, so you're not just, again, we have these loops. And if you've ever wondered, like for example, triggers, you call them whatever you want, um, and you see them over and over again. Again, get curious about it. It's like, all right, every time my significant other does this, I do this. They do this, I do this. I'm like, oh, like if you've been in a relationship with someone for a period of time, you could probably almost see the storm coming. You're like, hmm, oh, I think we're gonna have a fight tonight. I think it's coming. I think it's coming. Again, it's so predictable. And again, is that serving you? Maybe, maybe not. It's not for me, for me to disclose that. That's only for you to tell. However, if you're open to sort of circumventing that, again, you can't control other people. You can control how you show up. And sometimes showing up in a curious fashion may be the thing to sort of break that. And then the cycle is it goes somewhere else. So I'll just leave it at that. But like, since we only have a few minutes left, I want to talk about, how you can, sort of enhance your curiosity that's going to help you master certain areas of your life. And so simple things that you can do. Again, this is where this is the sort of the CrossFit, this is the daily calisthenics that it's going to enhance your curiosity muscle. And the first thing, I know a lot of times we do a gratitude list, but I challenge and invite you to, on a daily, make a list of what are 5 things that amazed you today. Amazement, that's a really cool emotion, amazement. And in the beginning, you might not be able to get 5 things. And I get it, we're in a global pandemic and most people are barely even leaving their house. But the cool thing is because you're trying to be conscious about it, now you're going to start to see it. In the beginning, you might pick one thing that amazed you. And then because you're focusing on it on a daily, you might find 2 in a week or so. And then, you'll get to 5. And it's not like all of a sudden now there are amazing things that are happening. It's just that you're fine tuning that and you're more susceptible to the amazement. So Apryl, what are your thoughts? What's amazed you lately? In the chat, if you want to put what amazed you, love to get
this is so small, but like, I'm thinking about like just the things that I'm noticing. I have been really amazed at how, elementary school car line pickups, the things that can make them more, or the ways that they try to, make it efficient, right? Because you've got like a rush of traffic coming to one location and then like leaving again. But just kind of watching the ways that they have tried to circumvent like traffic in the street, that like there's a big loop for one of the schools that I have to pick up one of my sons, and when and there's a stoplight, and so when the stoplights hit, but then there's other people that are trying to come in, and so there's like this traffic jam, and just kind of watching how people how they've tried to circumvent that, but making sure that there is like still an order of the people who are in the line and who gets to pick up first, because it is, I don't know why I'm really fascinated by that, but like I've been thinking about it the last couple of days about like it's kind of amazing how they can figure out how to make that work with the setup that they have. And there's no, it's not ideal, but they can make that work. And so it's just interesting to like watch people problem solve efficiency, because that's just stuff that I'm fascinated by. I know it's super boring, but I'm like, that's kind of cool that, I know there, because sometimes there's like this, they create this third line and I'm like, but wait, like I got here first, but then they know the timing to like then let the people who have come in first. So I'm like, okay. So yeah, that was kind of amazing to me. Kind of lame, but kind of amazing. No. I'm like,
yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and so Terry mentioned how much drinking more water affects my energy. I know, right? That's just fascinating.
And how much it affects how many times you have to go to the bathroom.
Right? I'm just now kidding. You're moving and stuff like that. Like again, fascinating. And so one of the cool things about like looking at what are the things that amaze you, one, you will start to connect the dots with other stuff. Like Apryl's really into productivity. She's into the framework. She's into all of the efficiencies. And that's where we find these really cool things. And so yeah, on the daily, you should be intentional about listing what are the things that amazed you. Um, you know, please do that. And then the next one, it's going to seem like counterintuitive, but trust me, it everything sort of swings. There's a pendulum. And you remember when we were kids, and your mom, like maybe it's summertime, and and your mom's like, go do something, and you're like, I'm bored, mama. I don't know, just like being bored seems like a bad thing, but boredom is a catalyst for awesome things. So my advice to you is find moments to allow yourself to get bored, because that's boredom is not a bad thing, and we need to reframe boredom. Boredom is just the moment before inspiration strikes. But if you're always trying to be stimulated, you're going to miss the opportunity to be curious about something.
I love
And
this.
so that is one of the things, again, sometimes easier said than done. But with my son Garrett, like we're just allowing him, like, yeah, just you'll figure it out. Like he's like, what do I do now? I'm like, I don't know, you'll figure it out. And he always does. We
Yeah.
always do. We
Yeah.
always find something to do. It's going to start to fine tune your curiosity because your brain doesn't necessarily like being bored. And as a result, it's going to find something to do. But if you're always overstimulated, your your curiosity knob's going to always stay at 2 or 1.
Yeah. I really like this practice, to just try. I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about is like I've always struggled to allow myself to be bored because I like having fun, and boredom is not fun, and fun is one of my top values. But there's definitely been a lot more of that in the last year of just embracing boredom and being in your house all the time and like trying to imagine things and getting comfortable with that. And there's definitely a part of me that's like, huh, like I have more control over what I can decide to do in a moment instead of having a completely super packed schedule. So that's one. The other thing is that that's coming up for me when you talk about this is that in this pandemic age, like sometimes the kids haven't been able to socialize and they are you know leaning towards electronics to feed their entertainment. And for the last couple years, we've been implementing this like technology day or whatnot. And one of the things that we started doing in 2021 is to make it more of a habit. So every Saturday for 2 hours, there's like no technology. They have to find something else to do. And my kids don't always love it, but by the end of it, they have, pulled out all the toys that they haven't been playing with and doing different things or creating, forts in the basement. And um, it's just interesting to watch that, it kind of also brings in like the curiosity of what we're going to do now and then allowing them to tap into their creativity. So, yeah, I feel like all that stuff is linked. So cool.
Yes. And so there are 2 more quick ones. I know we're over time. It's going to be super quick. Uh, the next one, it's going to be challenging, but again, it will help you enhance your curiosity and be able to use it for its benefits. Is search for the positive in all situations. Search for the positive in all situations. And you can ask questions of what is this leading me to believe? What is what is the unanswered thing in this situation? You know, what is I like to say, what is the diamond in the garbage? Like, what do I not know about this person? Things like that. Again, a lot of times we think we know, and it's because our brain's always looking for meaning. So you're going to be quick to judge something. You're going to be quick to think, oh, I know, because that's our brain's job. Our brain's filling in the gaps. But if you question things, one is going to turn up your curiosity knob, and then look for the positive in all situations. Again, it's not trying to be like this is not the toxic positivity, but it's just looking at options and keeping those open, especially when things seem bleak. It's challenging to think of anything positive, but if you force yourself to think of even the smallest positive thing, For example, another personal thing, my grandma, she's getting up there, and she has leukemia, and then she recently found that there's like another cancer. And so, that's not a good thing, and it's, it makes me really sad to think about that. But I think about like, all right, what's the positive in this? And one of the positive things is that it is my grandma's great nephew or something, like I forgot the stuff like that, drove from Oklahoma to visit her just because he heard that she wasn't doing so good. So again, sometimes positive or negative things happen, but the positive in this is that now we are intentionally focusing more attention on my grandma, and our time is very limited with people. So the more that we can sort of spend time, we make those positive sort of connections. So again, it may be challenging, but that will help you fine tune your curiosity.
Yes. I love that. That's
And
awesome.
then the last one, this one is up for interpretation, but it's all about conquering fear. And
Mm,
so there's a quote by his name is James Stevens, and it's curiosity will conquer fear even more than bravery will.
hmm.
Because when you're scared about something, again, you go into that worry.
Yeah.
What if you're curious about it? And your curiosity will help you step into the face of fear, feel the fear and do it anyway. Like being brave, people think brave is fearless, but I like to say that fear, like it's an emotion, we shouldn't hide it. Acknowledge the fear, be curious, and if you look at the positives of that, it's going to allow you to step into action even a little bit. So that was it. So I want to sort of allow you to reflect on that last one, and then we're going to say goodbye because this was chock full of stuff. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Let us know in the comments what you think, and then April, what do you think?
Like there was definitely a part of me that was thinking about, the fear, especially when it comes with like, okay, let's be curious. I just shared a post with the ASC this week on a challenge that was related to like a story about Curious George, right? Like when I think about curiosity, I think of Curious George, and sometimes Curious George got in trouble by being curious, but then like it always ended up that the rewards were better than the little hurdles that you had to sit with. And so I think that sometimes fear can be a part of the fear to get to allow yourself or give yourself the permission to be curious is because of the fear of what the outcome might be. But then also thinking about like, well, the outcome could also be very positive and you just don't know. You just have to continue to get curious about it, and leverage the tools that you have to make those decisions on where you might decide that you want to go, and take those next steps to become even more curious, or outweighing those things. But I think that allowing yourself to be curious in general is going to be something that is going to open you up to more opportunities that you are not seeing. And so it's natural to feel all these different types of emotions, but I think that curiosity is definitely a really great catalyst to giving you this opportunity to envision what's possible, right? So, and I love that, right? Because I think we always get stuck in our head about like, well, no, this is the way that stuff is and I have to suck it up and deal with it. But like really get curious about that. How true is that? So that's
So
all I have to share. This is awesome,
yes.
Gary.
So thank you, everyone. Yes, this is awesome. Thank you for tuning in with us. And April, how about you bring it home? Bring it home.
Yeah,
Close us
so
out.
this is a free webinar series that we put on as a um, preview of what you might see in the ASC. This is obviously available to all members, but also available to the public just in case you're curious about what the Accountability Success Circle is and what we're all about. And what we are all about is really helping people personally grow, day by day, but also helping you accomplish your own personal goals. Our community of 300 plus people is really a close-knit community that is focused on supporting each other in the things that we want to do. And we're very diverse, we're very open-minded, and it's a nice little online hub for you to get support in whatever it is that you need in any area of your life. And so these webinars are just one of the things that we do to really deep dive into a topic that is related to our monthly theme, which obviously this month has been curiosity. And if you're just looking for, ways to make connections, we have, we care a lot about personal touch, not just like a random Facebook group where you can just post and you're just ignored, but where you're really seen and heard. So if you're curious about knowing what we do, go ahead and check out accountabilitysuccesscircle.com, and we will say hello to you and give you all the positive vibes and help you to continue to get curious about what's possible for you. So
yay. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next month.
I'm like, why am I so blurry? But yes, I'm curious about that. But see you guys later. Bye.